so weird. All
Yeah.
right. Well, that works. Is there an echo or is it good?
No, you're good.
Okay. All right. Well, that works then.
Yeah, we'll roll with it.
Yeah. I mean, for the four people that are going to see it on YouTube.
Yeah. All 8 views.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
I'm Roberto, San Antonio PDL.
We're not joined by Dan tonight because he's farming.
He says he's farming. I don't know what that means, but I really doubt that it's the agriculture focused farming. Probably farming women somewhere.
He could be. But yeah, we're joined via the internet for this episode and for future episodes. Um, we're having some issues with Discord, but we'll figure them out.
They
Hopefully by
can
the next episode.
they can stare at my frozen picture. That's fine. No
Yeah.
big deal. It's fine. Yeah, it's funny. I'm moving and everything on my end. Whatever.
Yes. Whatever.
No big deal.
So tonight we're drinking 1792 full proof. Um, but before we get into that, let's talk about the move. So Roberto moved back to San Antonio, and you've wasted no time jumping into the whiskey scene there.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean we've been here what's November 3rd, exactly 1 month since we officially moved. Because it was on the 3rd of October when we got the keys to the house. So yeah, I mean it's been a journey. Moves are not easy for sure.
Yeah, they
But
never are.
yeah, that's a lot of stuff. And then then you gotta settle in a new place. And like you said, I think the whiskey part of this did not take a break for the
Yeah,
move.
all the bottles survived, right?
All the battles survived. Every single one of them survived. As soon as we moved down here, like the second day, um, went to a tasting at a steakhouse here in San Antonio. That was great. It was what it was, Redemption. It wasn't. No, it wasn't Redemption. Yeah, it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
Redemption.
Redemption.
Yeah, Redemption whiskey. A distill. Well, it's not a distillery yet, and I say that because they're mostly blending and selling their blends from MGP because
Hmm.
they're brand new in Connecticut. So that was fun. Wasted no time in getting the bottles out of the box. Wasted no time in setting up the bourbon room that is frozen in the picture right now. And now I have the very nice Bourbon Matters topper here
Yeah,
in the
so
back.
we got to talk about that real quick. So yeah, all three of us got one. I got them for each of us so that we could represent from wherever we are. And they're done by Antioch Barrel. Our buddy Tom built Roberto and Dan liquor cabinets out of used barrels that were beautiful, and then he CNC cut these barrel toppers, which I'll pull mine up too.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah,
Man, that looks
they're
great.
gorgeous. He
How
did an
did he make
incredible
them? I mean,
job.
this is so well done.
Yeah, so he knows a guy with a CNC machine, so it's
Okay.
all CNC cut, and then I think they went over it with laser to build the contrast.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I mean they came out so nice.
Yeah, this is absolutely beautiful. I mean, the quality is just great. Did he tell you that what barrels they came from? The toppers?
I'm not sure. I think he just picked like unmarked ones. Um,
Mm-hmm.
just because like the you wouldn't be able to see the stuff on it anyway.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because it'll be. lasered out or whatever this is.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, no, these are beautiful. So wasted no time in putting it on the wall next to the shelves, next to the Chicago flag.
Yeah. It's
And,
looking good.
yeah, so the only downside was that in Illinois we had a bourbon room, and I was putting bottles not just on the shelves, but I was putting bottles in all the little tables in the room, the side tables, and coffee table had a few bottles already, and now here it's a bourbon room, but it's connected to the living room. So I had to pretty much find space for all 240 something bottles on the shelves themselves. And it got challenging. It got a little challenging to put everything on the shelf, but it worked out.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
bet.
I mean this is it's full of bottles. This is absolutely full of bottles.
Yeah, it's way more dense than it was at your at the Illinois
Yeah,
house.
for sure. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, it's good to be here. Again, starting to find some of the tasting places. There's a chain down here in Texas, and I think there's in Wisconsin too, but there's no in Illinois. It's called Total Wine,
Yep.
and Total Wine has a beautiful tasting room slash classroom, and they do have some whiskey tasting. So
Nice.
been checking those out too. Yeah, settling in here in San Antonio for sure.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
cool stuff. At
really
least you have a
is.
replacement for Gold Eagle.
No, yeah, yeah, I was thinking that yesterday. The classes here for any spirit, they're given by the spirit manager. So, the store has a spirit manager, and she
Mm.
was okay. She knew some things. This guy asked her, it was a Scotch class last night, and this guy, and they were showing, it was really well done. They had PowerPoint presentations, they had videos. It was really nicely done. They had a pamphlet that they passed out with
Nice.
the story of Scotch and what we were tasting. And but again, this is the spirit manager, so she's in charge of everything from tequila to whiskey to
Oh, okay.
whatever you cognac. And this guy behind me, we had just watched the video of how they mold the barley in Scotland. Pretty cool process. And this guy's like, wait, so if you're malting the barley, can you mold the corn and the wheat? She's like, wait, no. She said, you're thinking about this the wrong way. The fact that it's a single malt is because it's from one distillery. The
And
guy's like,
only
I get
one
that,
grain.
but yeah, she's like, I get that. I'm talking that if you malt barley, he didn't know what it was. It was new to him.
Yeah.
Like, why can't you malt the corn and the wheat too? She's like, no, again, you're thinking about this the wrong way. The fact that it's a single malt is because of the distillery. And he was super confused because his question made sense.
Yeah.
But again, that's just an example of something like Jake would have been immediately tell you something, right? He was like, oh yeah,
Like,
this is wine.
well, you're thinking of bourbon,
Exactly.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. So,
Like single
uh,
malt scotch is only malted barley exclusively.
right. So I turned around and I told the guy, it's like, look, corn, I don't think you can mold corn because I don't think it sprouts or
I,
germinates.
I don't think you'd want to.
I don't think you want to, right? It would taste like a plant.
Yeah.
Um, and it's like, you could probably malt wheat, but I don't know if that tastes any good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen malted rye and
Malted rye,
malted
yeah.
barley. But yeah, I've
Right.
never heard of malted corn or malted wheat. I don't
Yeah,
think you definitely don't want to do that to corn. And
no.
I don't
And I'm
know
not,
if wheat would if it would ruin the wheat or not.
I don't even know if the corn kernels will germinate because I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe they do. I don't.
I'm not sure. I mean, like at the end of the day, you're just like grinding it up anyway. So
Right. That's what I told him too. He's like, well, you're gonna mash it anyway, so who cares?
yeah, I mean the malted barley I think is only so that it produces that enzyme to help break down some
Exactly.
of the sugars in the corn and
For the
or well not
for the
not the corn
yeah
in the
for the
case of
fermenting
scotch, but
process.
yeah for like to help the yeast out and stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'm still frozen in the thing, aren't I?
yeah, it's all right.
This is awesome. Well, because I was like, well, then I'm not gonna worry if I'm like, looking at the camera.
All right,
But
well,
anyway,
let's jump into some stories because been a lot of news since the our last episode was recorded, which was like a month ago.
I think it was more than a month. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So a few different releases have come out. Midwinter's Night's Dram from High West came out and probably already sold out. Um, so I think that's Act 10 this year. Um, which
And you got one, right?
yeah, I got one. Dan got one. You're still hunting, right?
I'm still hunting. Yeah, I haven't found it.
You'll probably be able to find one down there.
Yeah, what I've been running into is a bunch of people marking the shit out of them.
Yeah,
I mean, like, it's just the markup is ridiculous in some of these stores. But anyway,
yeah. And then you picked up a Garrison Brothers Cowboy Bourbon.
I was very excited because I had been looking in Illinois. I don't think they distribute in Illinois. I asked one of the stores here if they had any insights into where they distribute Cowboy. She said it was a store here down the street in San Antonio, and Garrison Brothers is actually an hour north of me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's local. And she's like, good luck because we got 2 bottles for the year. It's completely allocated by Garrison. And if you find it, it's gonna be marked up like tremendously. And sure enough, I started looking for at stores on the internet in San Antonio. The ones that did sell them online, it was like 600 or 650.
Yeah.
So I started making friends with the guy at Total Wine down here. And after the class yesterday, I went to him. He's like, oh man, you probably get a good allocation of Kerosene because you're a big store. He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, where's the cowboy? He's like, oh, let me show you. And I got it at retail. It retails for 247.
Yeah, that's a great price.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good
but
pickup.
he told me like we're starting to mark it up for other peeps to 300.
Yeah,
I'm like,
which is still
fine.
isn't that
I
bad.
mean, that's still pretty nice.
Yeah, compared to 600 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you asked anybody out there if they're getting any? Well, I get
I
Sam that has them, right?
Yeah, supposedly Dan talked to Sam about it. So I might pop out there this weekend.
Yeah, and hopefully he'll let it go at a good price.
Yeah.
He normally does. He's good to us.
Yeah, he's usually pretty good.
Yeah.
But
Anyway, I
speaking
interrupted the
of
stories.
speaking of Texas distilleries, Diageo just bought Balcones Distilling. That's out of Balcones is out of Waco, which you're not a fan of.
I don't think anybody's a fan of Waco. Only the idiots that went to Baylor are fans of Waco. Nobody else likes Waco.
There is the sale price is undisclosed, which makes me think that it was probably for a lot.
Yeah.
Somewhere in here, hold on, let me find it.
Somebody made really good money there. Like somebody got a nice payday.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, because they're not a small distillery by any means.
Not anymore, no.
And
Yeah.
I mean, how many different expressions do they have? Like 10 or more? Like, so they must
Yeah.
be really, really pumping stuff out. So that's a big move, especially
Yeah.
for the Texas market.
Yeah.
Then going back up to Kentucky, Wild Turkey, who's owned by the Italian brand Campari, just bought Wilderness Trail for $600 million.
Jeez.
It's going to be a 70% stake immediately. And then in 2031, the remaining 30% will be transferred over to Campari.
Damn.
So we actually just went to a Wilderness Trail event at Gold Eagle, and one of the things that they had talked about was how Wilderness Trail is a major like yeast producer.
Yep.
So they actually supply a lot of places with yeast, and that was their initial like startup capital to get into the distilling side. was all the yeast cultivation and sales, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. Wilderness Trail, I went to the distillery 2 years ago. It's beautiful. State of the art,
Yeah.
modern. The warehouses, if anybody's been to Bardstown like we did, a couple of months ago, that's exactly what Wilderness Trail looks like. It's just every warehouse is metal. It's beautiful. It's modern.
Yeah.
And then you can go into the yeast center where they have all the scientists actually working on their proprietary yeast, which, to your point, they sell to a bunch of distilleries because it's very sought after.
Hmm.
Supposed to be one of the best, if not the best in the market.
Yeah.
Um, so it's worth a visit, and I'm assuming now that it's bought out by a bigger company, they'll probably do like the nice visitor center and everything that everybody in Kentucky is doing to their distilleries because it's bare bones. Like there's not a big, I mean, there's a store, and that's it. It's a small store.
That's surprising. I thought they'd be a little bit more like
Yeah, yeah. It's
can't
actually
think of the word,
pretty.
but
It's
inviting.
well done, but it's small, and it's funny because
Okay.
you go into the store, and if you go one door into the next room, that's the distillery, and
Huh.
so
Okay.
you go from the store to the distillery tour, which is pretty funny. But anyway,
Hmm.
typical of smaller distilleries that have like the store and the bar,
Yeah.
and then you just like walk right into the distillery.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because like they were just telling us. I mean, this class was maybe uh like 4 days before the sale was announced.
Yeah,
That like they had what was it, like quadrupled their distilling capacity in the past
yeah,
couple of years. So like the amount of whiskey that they're sitting on right now is like massive,
yeah,
and it's in like uh something like 4 to 6 years they're gonna be like flooding the market because they're gonna have so much.
yeah.
So that's an interest. It's an interesting acquisition by Wild Turkey.
It's a lot of whiskey.
Yeah, for sure.
Damn.
All right, well let's jump into what we're tasting tonight. The 1792 full proof. So 1792 is distilled by Barton 1792, which is located in Bardstown, Kentucky. Um, it's not really like stated straightforwardly, but it's owned by Sazerac,
Yeah,
which also owns Buffalo Trace.
yeah,
So it's reasonable to say that they probably use some of the same mash bills, or at least some of the same like sources of grain and stuff like that. I would think,
yeah. I would imagine.
if not the same exact recipes, but
Exactly.
so we're tonight is a little interesting because I couldn't find a normal 1792 full proof. So
Yeah.
I actually, Jake at Gold Eagle had to dig this out of the basement
Are you serious?
to get me one. But it's a Gold Eagle single barrel pick of the full proof. So
Damn.
our tasting will differ slightly, but I think that makes it interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it should be the same mash, of course,
Yeah,
same methods, but yeah, I mean, it'll vary just like Blanton's varies from bottle to bottle.
yeah.
Um,
So
usually,
my bottle is 125 proof.
I think all of the full proofs are 125.
Okay, so they are actually tempering it to get
Yeah,
that 125.
yeah, they proof it either up or down to 125.
Okay. So I
It
mean
goes in the barrel.
they'd have
Yeah,
to I'm guessing that typically then that they're mixing barrels
right.
and then adding
On a
water
batch.
if necessary to get to 125.
Yeah, in the full proof, just like any full proof whiskey, they're bottling it at the proof that it went into the barrel. So to your point, at some point, you either have to proof it down or up at some point to
Yeah.
get to 125. So all the full proofs go into the barrel at 125, and when they bottle it, that's why they have to tinker with it to proof it at some point to 125.
Mhm.
Um, it's it's not easy to find. Full proof is 1792 full proof. It's pretty sought after.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible to find, but it's not easy to find. And if for example, Sam has some on the shelf in the back.
Mhm.
Not in the back, like hidden in the back, but he has them on the shelf behind the register.
Yeah.
Um, Benny's usually has a couple of bottles. That's where I got one of them, one of my last ones. And then Liquor Barn also normally has some in the case. You have to go to the case; they'll have maybe one or two.
Yeah. I wouldn't call this one a unicorn, although it is on the harder side to find.
Yeah,
But I think when they do put out a release, it's pretty wide widely available
yeah,
in terms of like the quantity of bottles.
yeah. And again, I've already seen it here at Total Wine on the shelf,
Oh, okay.
and but I do remember like visiting my parents for Christmas or Thanksgiving and trying to look for it at Total Wine. I would never find it. So to your point, I think it's when they release the batch, it probably floods the market and then it goes away.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, there's stores where if you walk in and have a good relationship with the dude, he'll probably have one. It's not like to
Yeah.
your point, it's not a unicorn.
I would think you can probably find it. If not, just keep an eye out and it'll show up at some point.
Exactly. It's
Yeah. So
one of my. I mean, I love Foolproof 1792. I buy a bottle every time I find one mix again, to the point that it's harder to find, but also because I really enjoy Foolproof. Um, I think it's so well balanced, and also has a really nice bold flavor to it. Now, this is 125, so yeah, it's gonna sting a little,
yeah.
and it does. You can definitely on the nose it hits you a little.
Yeah. The nose is
Uh,
pretty hot.
yeah, on the palate it hits you. When you taste it, it hits you a little, but the finish is so smooth. I've been drinking some already for the last 15 minutes, especially since people can't see me. Like, when I'm gonna start drinking. Yeah,
So yeah, I mean
definitely
the
ethanol is there.
the color on it is beautiful.
Color is pretty.
Like
It is.
deep copper.
Yep.
Um
Maple syrup,
yeah.
copper.
Yeah.
Um,
It
Beautiful color.
I don't know what the age is on this, but
Yeah, I don't
it
know
looks
either.
like it's
Dan would have had to do the research because I'm not sure.
yeah, it's probably fairly old. Um I
Has
would
to be.
probably at least 4 or 5 years to get this much color, unless they're using like a really heavy char. But
Yeah,
I doubt it.
if like a level 4 char or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I was trying to Google real quick, but I don't know. I don't think the age statement is readily available.
Is
Um,
Buffalo Trace uses number 3 across the board.
yeah,
Um, so if they're buying in bulk and distributing to 1792, through Sazerac or something, then it could be that it's a number 3. Um,
yeah,
but if it is a number 3, then it's really old to get this much color.
it is. And that's how it's described. Actually, I was just pulling up Breaking Bourbon because normally they have good insights in there,
Mhm.
and that's how they describe it. It's like just straight up copper. Um, Here it is. So the press release in 2016, when they released the first foolproof 1792, it said it was 8.5 years
Oh, okay.
aged.
Yeah, that's
That makes
a
sense.
solid
That
solid.
makes a lot of sense. The mash bill is undisclosed. However, rumors around the internet say that it's 75% corn, 15% rye, and 10% malted barley. And actually makes sense because I can taste nice cereal in here. So it's some good mash bill.
Yeah, I mean the corn's definitely there.
Agreed.
I am getting a little bit of that rye like pepper
Mm-hmm.
in there. And a little bit
And
of the like
spice.
the cereal at the end, like you said.
Yeah, I'm getting a really like very decent spice in the finish.
Yeah,
Like it's lingering very nicely in a good way, not in an overpowering way.
yeah. It's for me the cereal and that rye spice is kind of sitting in like the middle of my mouth
Agreed.
for a long time, which is
Completely
interesting because
agree.
usually that comes in like the back. So
Yeah,
that's kind of an interesting note.
it really is. That's a good point. In the cereal, now that I've been drinking for a little while and or drinking it, not drinking for a little while, drinking, I've been tasting it for a little while. Um, the cereal notes on the nose like get stronger for me, which is beautiful. I love the cereal notes. Anybody that's heard my stories about eating raw barley at Barnstormers knows that I like cereal. Um, and again, it stings a little because it is high proof, but at the same time, you can smell the sweetness. You can smell that it's bold, that you're about to drink a bold whiskey.
Yeah.
Um, and I mean, it's so well balanced. Love the flavor.
Yeah,
Love
it's
the balance.
interesting because, like you said, I would agree it's very well balanced. But I wouldn't label it as complex.
I completely agree. There's not a lot of complexity.
There's like two or three like strong notes,
Yeah.
um, which are really kind of just like the typical grain notes of the corn, rye, and barley.
Yep.
Um,
I agree with that.
but they are well balanced
Yeah.
between each other.
Yeah, and it's a good distinction there. Complexity, at least to me, is to your point that I'm tasting a lot of things that I'm having a hard time defining what I'm tasting. Like, oh, there's the cherry. Oh, there's the peach.
Hmm.
You know? And balance is that for me, to your point, that the notes go well together very nicely.
Hmm.
That when I smell it, not one note's overpowering. Like it's not, if it's 75% corn, but if you smell mellow corn, which is 100% corn, that it smells like corn, right? And that's
Right.
the one note that you'll see. This one, I smell the corn, I smell a little bit of spice, a little bit of maple syrup, and everything goes together really nice.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I am getting a little bit of oak flavor on the finish.
Hmm.
And maybe like
I
I'm
agree.
getting like a bitter note at the end after like this is like my third or fourth sip.
Yeah.
Almost coffee like, but not quite as like harsh.
Yeah.
Um,
Like coffee liqueur.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
that's a really good point. I can definitely taste like a coffee liqueur of some sort.
yeah, and like a touch of vanilla maybe.
Vanilla for sure. Yeah. For me, it's actually a little not dominant, but it's there.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but
like
yeah,
it isn't it's missing a lot of those like you know the like banana and black
yeah,
cherries and some of that crap that like you would expect out of like an older whiskey or a
yeah,
higher proof whiskey, that usually comes out.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. I do like it. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites because I have a lot of favorite whiskeys,
Yeah.
but it's up there on the list of, if you were considering my favorites to be, the nine and tens out of one, out of on a scale of 1 to 10. I mean, I would definitely do this one like a 7 or 8. Like it's up there.
Hmm.
Um, it would be if it wasn't harder to find, it would be one of my go-tos for like on a weeknight. But it is a little more difficult to find, so I try to reserve it for like a weekend night and chill when I don't have a lot of things to worry about on a Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, But I mean, I enjoy it a lot. I think Foolproof is really well done.
Yeah,
I just
I think this is like minus the high proof. This is pretty approachable.
yeah,
Um, so like if you're looking to get into 120 plus proof, like this is a good one. You know,
agreed.
um, because it is pretty simplistic, but it's like your classic bourbon flavors. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah, I mean it's a good starting point if you want to get into higher proof.
yeah, yeah. It's a good gateway to the high proof for sure. Um, I forget what the proof on Elmer T. Lee is, but this one reminds me a lot of Elmer T. Lee. And
Huh,
what really
that's a good
started
point.
to drive that point for me is when you said that you tasted something bitter at the end in the finish.
Yeah.
Elmer T. Lee has a bitterness in the finish.
Yep.
And this one reminds me a lot of Elmer T. Lee.
Yeah. That's a really interesting point. I totally agree. I mean, Elmer, I think, is only like 94 proof, if
Yeah, it's a
I'm
lower proof.
if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken. It's definitely under 100.
It is 45% 90. Yeah, it's 90, right
Oh,
at 90.
90. Wow, that's lower than I thought. But
I thought
yeah,
so too. I thought it was higher, but I'm looking at my bottle. Um, but the notes remind me of it a lot.
yeah,
It's horny, it's like corn with a very nice spice and a little bit of a bitter in a good way, in a better like a bitter finish.
hmm,
That complements the sweetness.
yeah.
Um, yeah. I picked up a bottle in Bond full proof. I mean, I'm sorry, 1792.
Oh, okay.
And those are hard to find. Like you have to dig through people, to find the bottle in Bond because they go really quickly.
Hmm.
I haven't opened it, but I'm excited because 1792 has good whiskeys.
Yeah, I know. Dan, and I had tried. I think the regular 1792, the bottle and
Hmm.
bond, and the full proof at Gold Eagle like a long time ago.
Hmm.
Like probably, I mean, before we even started the podcast, I think.
Yeah, we did their tasting that they had at the bar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was like not a fan.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
but
I do remember.
I mean, then I don't know if I had anything over like maybe 110 proof up till that point.
Yeah, so your palate got used
So
to
yeah,
drinking like higher proof.
yeah, and it said um, there's definitely an evolution to as you try more and more things.
Yeah,
So like I think it's always good to like go back and try something that you didn't think you liked before,
agreed.
just to see if you've developed a taste for whatever that profile is.
Yeah, it's funny because if you had asked me 3 years ago, 4 years ago, maybe not three, but four, like, do you like bourbon? I'm like, no, it tastes like shit.
Yeah, right.
I've tried it. It's fine. No, I don't really like it.
Yeah,
I
it would have
prefer
been like,
gin.
oh yeah, I like to mix Jack with Coke.
Yeah, exactly. You know, 3 or 4 years ago, well, four maybe. Gin was my go-to liquor, and if you ask me if I like whiskey, I'm like, yeah, I'll drink a scotch every now and then, but nah, bourbon, American whiskey, nah, I
Hmm.
don't like them. I've tried them, and then it took to which is something that the more you do this, the more you like and appreciate the whiskeys, which is learn about what goes into them, how they process them, how they distill them, and it
Definitely.
really it's the full experience of understanding what the effort that goes into it, the ingredients that go into it, how they carefully balance and manage the ingredients to make a bourbon. And if anybody listening is like, yeah, bourbon's great, whiskey's great, but it's good, right? Like I'll drink a gin and tonic too, and learn about it, look into
Yeah.
how it's made, go to a distillery in your area. There's plenty everywhere. And you start really appreciating it. And that's what really got me into like, holy shit, like this smells just like when I was in the distillery.
Yeah.
Like this, now I know how they ferment it. Now I know how the effort that goes into actually making this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
and like almost everywhere has like craft distilleries now. So going into those places and trying what they're putting out, can open up some cool, doors to things that like you might not have thought you liked before.
Yeah. Yeah. Completely. And then it becomes a then it becomes a vice almost to like, oh shit, now we gotta what other distilleries are there?
Yeah.
Uh, here in San Antonio, there's a lot. I've been finding a lot. We just went to Rebecca Creek
Oh yeah.
last weekend. Medium-sized distillery that distributes mainly in Texas. They distribute in Louisiana too and New Mexico, but it's well, I mean, it's no small feat to just distribute in Texas. It's
Yeah.
like,
Right.
where do you distribute? Texas, perfect. That's like the size of Europe.
Yeah.
Um, but anyway, so Rebecca Creek was fun, right here in the hill country of San Antonio. And one of the interesting things, two very interesting things. One is the biggest pot still in the Western Hemisphere, and it is true when you see it in person. It's like holy crap.
So
Um,
is that
and
their
the
only still?
what's that?
Is that their only still?
No, they have a column still, but
Okay.
they only use the column still. They only use it for gin and vodka.
Ah,
They
okay.
do not use it for bourbon. They exclusively use the pot still for bourbon.
Oh,
And
interesting.
it's beautiful. It's something to see for sure. But yeah, it's a medium-sized distillery that's growing really quickly here.
Nice.
And yeah, so it's fun. And then I didn't know. Remember Dan at some point had a bottle of Devil's River, um, little one of the mini bottles, Devil's River, and he took it to like New Zealand or one of those crazy countries that he goes to and has a picture with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually just noticed that I have a little bottle here of Devil's River that I got in Kentucky.
Oh, nice.
Uh, well, Devil's River is based out of downtown San Antonio. I just found out today.
Oh, that's
So the,
cool.
dis- the distillery is in downtown San Antonio. So I'm like, oh shit, now I got to go to that. Um, I did not know that was a Texas distillery.
Yeah. I don't think I've ever tried that before.
I've never tried it. I have the little bottle, but I have not tried it. It's supposed to be really good, and the distillery is supposed to be very nice. So that's probably going to be one of the next ones to go to. So if
Yeah.
anybody listening happens to be in San Antonio, look up the distilleries. They have some really good stuff here.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
dang.
Anything else before we wrap this up?
Just that I highly recommend Full Proof. I recommend you pick up a bottle if you find it. Again, it's hard to find, so if you find one, just get it. Even if you're just now getting into bourbon, retails at 45. You'll probably get if you go to one of the bigger stores and they have it on the shelf, you'll get it at retail. I remember my guy in Dallas used to sell this one for about 80, which I still bought it. It's not terrible. But just get it, taste it. It's good. I
Yeah.
recommend it.
Yeah, it's worth picking up.
Hmm.
All right.
Very cool.
So next week, we are having Jake from Gold Eagle on, and we're gonna try the Whiskey Acres Gold Eagle single barrel pick.
Heck
Um,
yeah.
do you have a bottle, Roberto?
I don't
Oh,
know. I'll pretend that I'm drinking it or something because
you can drink that. You've got the bottled and bond, right?
I got the bottle and bond whiskey
Yes, you
acres.
can
Yeah.
have that one with us.
Yeah. I'll have to dig it out of this collection of bottles here somewhere. But I do have whiskey acres bottle and bond.
Yeah,
Uh,
I mean, so it'll be cool to have Jake on. He'll talk. We'll ask him about how the process for picking a barrel goes. We've got questions about running a liquor store, stuff like that. So that'll be a really fun interview. That'll actually be our first interview, I think. Right?
yeah,
Pretty
I think it'll
sure.
be the first one. Is he coming to your house or are you going to Gold Eagle?
Yeah, he'll be in the studio.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so it'll be fun to have him here. He said he's gonna bring some cool stuff for us to try too.
Dang
So
it.
not for you, but
I gotta look for a ticket, see if I can go for the day.
yeah.
Dang, jealous.
um,
Hashtag jealous.
yeah. Then we've got our schedule for the rest of the year put together, and we've got some cool stuff coming up for the rest of the year too. Um, and then we will be taking the last week of the year off. And
Yeah.
then we'll come back in 2023 strong.
Yeah.
We've got some ideas for what we want to do for season 2. So we're excited for that. Thanks to everybody for supporting us and liking our Instagram and watching on YouTube and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
So again, reminder: find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. Like, review, rate, subscribe, notification bell. Click all the buttons.
All of them. Truth Social, you name it. Instagram is growing. So yeah, like you said, thanks to all the followers on Instagram. The accounts growing, and we try to have fun with it and engage with others. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very nice.
All
Well, I'm
right.
looking forward to seeing Jake there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be fun next week. So make sure you
I
tune
think.
in.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right. Well, cheers from a distance,
Yeah.
man.
Cheers.
I don't know how you make the clinking sound.
Clink.
There you go, clink. That's right. All right.
All right. See you next time.